Good evening, everyone.
Hello,
Hello.
welcome. Episode 175, and we've got the Bash Chris with us.
Hello.
Everybody go around the room and introduce yourself.
Lou first.
Yeah, everybody knows me. I'm that fat bloke that's organised the Olympic Bash. And this is fan.
Good evening. So you may know we do have a little bit of feedback. It's an issue that we can't quite work out at the moment.
That was Defina, and I'm Andrew Cook.
What do you bring to the party, Cookie?
What do I bring other than a beautiful orange T-shirt? So Lou's the driving force. So I've been doing whatever I can to help out.
Yep.
You know, the sort of behind the scenes bit of paperwork here and there, and recently we've been organising some stickers as well. So that'll be a big reveal pretty soon.
So you guys are here because you guys are representing the Vintage Bash 2.0. So last year it was hosted by Kilo. Same weekend, same time. This year we're going to Knox. And that's somewhere that's very dear to my heart because that's where I started off for me back in 1993. So it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of history in the Knox Club for all of us, for sure. I think, I remember, it would have been 88, 89, I think, when I first raced there. I think even earlier for Lou and Aaron, right?
85. Yeah, about the same.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. Don't want to think about how many years it is, but it's a long time.
That's fantastic. So who have we got on tonight, Beach?
So who we got on? We've got a lot of visitors, actually. We've got 18 people viewing, as you imagine, for an evening. So we've got Jeff on. We have Craig. Sorian is joining us. Jason Palmer. Tony P. Let's see, who else we've got? Nids. And that's it. At the moment, hello to us.
It seems we're suffering really badly from echo. More comments I can say.
Now I'm going to just try something. I'm just going to mute here. Okay, how are we with the sound now? Still echo. All right. So
You've muted me.
Being muted. Have to see what Jason says about the sound.
It's bad. What?
let me see what's going on here.
We've lost
BJ's
BJ.
off. Is he gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
I thought you guys did a dry rehearsal before at 6 p.m.
We did. It was working okay before. Now is it sounding better now?
It's way better.
Okay, so that was an echo coming from my shotgun mic, which was actually switched off.
That is crisp.
Ooh.
It's better?
We are on.
On.
All right. Okay.
BJ called shotgun.
All right, let's start again. Welcome everyone again. No, I think it still is a slight echo, but it's much better. Tony P saying no, not that much better. Just started again. How much better is that?
Need some love.
What kind of love?
I don't know, but it seems better all of a sudden.
It does, doesn't it?
Comes and goes.
Wonder why.
I don't know.
Everyone's saying it's okay now. Seems better for me too.
Now.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go before it breaks.
Everyone's saying it's good now.
Don't let it break.
All right. Well, welcome aboard again. I'm BJ from Hearns Hobbies. Brett is there in the top corner. We've got Lou and Aaron and Andy, and we're talking about the Vintage Bash, number 2. Now, number 2 is coming up soon. November, is that correct?
What date is it, guys?
4 weeks away. And it's a full event. Like all the positions have been spoken for. Is that correct? There's a waiting list now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've got people on the waiting list. So if anybody, we can probably still squeeze a couple more in. The weightings at the moment, we've got it sort of structured. So we've got 12 to 13 races on each day. But if we just let people enter, it's going to get to a point where we can't actually control the race day. So what we ask people, if they still want to have a run, just shoot us an email via the vintagebash@gmail.com. And if we can fit them in, we'll happy to do it.
But even those that can't get a position, everyone's welcome to watch. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
There's also the Comical Cup.
Well, you're going to see stuff that you don't normally see. So by all means, if you want to come down and you've got some stuff you want to display, if you want to see some of the cars around, everybody's welcome.
And the comicals are no numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring on the
comicals.
Oh, yeah.
The Comicals is going to be the most hotly contested event, a class of the event, surely.
Yep, and we've got a plan to deal with the limited size of the Knox driver stand for comicals too. So.
No, that's okay. I think everybody should have to drive around the perimeter of the track.
Don't spoil it.
No driver stand allowed.
Don't spoil it.
So for those that are not aware, what is the Vintage Bash all about?
Yes.
Cook, you go first.
The Vintage Bash. So it's all about us, maybe not so young guys anymore, bringing back a bit of our childhoods. So, a lot of us raced a lot of these types of cars back in the 80s and 90s. And, bringing them back now, it's very cool to just see them on the track again. And all the memories that are associated with that, of all the guys that we used to race with, and all the good times that we had back then. It's not so much about winning. It's not a championship. It's not about coming on the podium and getting a first, second, or third. But we all love to race and try and beat each other on the track. But this whole event is really about the sort of friendships and the fun, and obviously in particular the cars that were the centerpiece of everything back then, and especially how different they were as well. So. Nowadays some of the cars look quite similar, but back in the sort of 80s, 90s, they were very different, a lot of different designs, different looks. And I think maybe that's something that's really captures like our imagination these days.
So Lou and Aaron, what is it about the Bash that does it for you? Why are you so passionate about it? Now, this time around, it's 3 days, right?
Yep, it is. The reason we're so passionate about it is because, I don't know, we've gotten older. We've got all those cars that we collected, and we've got all the memories and that. And as you're starting to go through it, you start to go back and remember what it was. And it's like Cookie said, it's not so much about the winning. Don't get us wrong. Everyone's out there to win. The fame's come out as soon as you get a transmitter in your hand. But it's more about the fun and the friendships and that you had, and the memories and the joy that you had when you had those cars. Like, I don't know about for most of the people out there, but they were the centre of my life when I was at that age in racing. It was everything you thought about was an RC car back then. It was an RC10 or an Ultima or a Fascia Tomahawk or a Mugen Bulldog, which was my first race car, or a Frog. And, it was huge. And going back to there and going back to what racing was is what's important for us. And it, in a way, it's the same as what's happening with the rest of society, like historic race cars, historic boats, historic everything, sort of making a comeback with everything. And everyone's starting to go back to when, their memories were. So that's what it is for me. It's about, really, it's just an excuse I can get together with all my mates. But we won't say that out loud because my wife might sort of have a good look at it. But that's really what the Bash is to me. Yeah.
So everyone that's lucky enough to enter, what can they expect from the the event or the carnival, as we can call it?
The carnival, what can they expect? They can expect to see something that they're not going to be able to see very often. So it's almost like going back in, our idea behind the whole thing is it's almost like going back in time, because you're not going to get to see, at the end of the day, these are vintage cars, but they're vintage race cars. So once upon a time, we saw these were the current crop of race cars. So we are trying to organise it in a way that represents what a race meeting would have been back in 1993 or 1992 or 1989 or stuff like that. So, again, you're going to get to see stuff that you don't normally see, that sometimes you may see it on a shelf or you might see a picture of it, but you may see 10 off or 20 off or 30 off racing against each other. And some of the guys that were not too bad back in the day.
So it's going to look something like this. Like this is a classical image that was recreated from last year, right?
Yeah, that was myself and Andy. Andy came up with a story and an idea, and I thought, well, you're either Ford or Holden, and you're either associated or Losi. So I'm Losi, Andy's associated, and here we are. We tried to recreate the front row of the 1989 World Champs, which is for everybody that's in Australia, that was a pretty special event.
So what was that? That was at St. Ives, wasn't it?
St. Ives, yeah.
Now there's talk that the World Championships are going to come back to Australia.
Yeah, they are back in Australia in 2 years' time, yeah.
The 2025 1/10th Off-Road IFMA champions, they could even be at St. Ives. Could be between Castle Hill, St. Ives and Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, very exciting. So there's other news which we've just learned, and this was, hang on, where am I going?
Show me the news, BJ. Don't hold back.
Hey?
Don't hold back.
What? Don't hold back, you're saying?
No, show me.
Hang on, I'm looking.
Secret in RC. You think? Probably.
No, it's the same one.
That's wrong.
Hang on. Bear with me. Keep talking. I've got to try and find stuff.
What is it?
What is it? The beach all day too, B.
Hang on. I'm trying to find
It's
it.
been a public holiday here in Melbourne, and it's been an absolutely beautiful day, and I've been all day at the beach. It has been absolutely fantastic.
All right, I found it.
I thought I spotted you out there too, Aaron.
No, not today, mate. Not today.
No,
Oh, it's pretty small. What is that?
that is the 870C Super Dogfighter 2023 rendition, recreation, reinvention.
So that's the information that's been shown at the Yokomo booth at the Tokyo Hobby Show, which is on this weekend in Tokyo Big Side.
Yeah, that's
so
live.
That's to confirm that the Super Dogfighter is indeed getting reproduced. There's a re coming, and it's anticipated in December.
Well, it's not anticipated. It's penciled in.
Oh, it's penciled in, yeah. It's as you can see, the 3D CAD drawings are pretty well advanced, aren't they?
Do you know that Hearns Hobbies alone has got in excess of, I think it's like 93 back orders for the car already?
Yes.
There's like every shop. Obviously, we are Hearns Hobbies really proud to say that we are the exclusive agent in Australia for Yokomo, and we're really glad that we can be part of this, because I think that this is really going to open Yokomo's eyes to the legacy that they created all those years ago.
Absolutely.
And we've spoken about it before, Beach, but yeah, I know unfortunately, it's going to miss out this year's Vintage Bash 2.0, but next year's Vintage Bash 3.0, you can bet that there's going to be about 50 of these suckers running around.
Sure.
You're like 2 full heats of YZ870Cs.
3 full
and
heats.
there's not going to be many cares given, because we should have like spare parts.
As long as you've got either green and yellow paint for the body, or blue and red with some stars, some white stars.
How many Yokomos do you think we're going to see this year's Vintage Bash 2.0?
I think there's 8.
8
Wow.
coming. That's pretty impressive, because last year, I don't know, at the 1.0, I don't think that there was maybe 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, I can tell you that there's a complete heat of 10 Losi XXX4s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of the 1989 RC10s there as well, right?
There's almost a complete heat of those as well.
Thanks to a certain somebody in orange shirt.
Yeah.
Yep, maybe one of these.
Oh, one of those.
Oh,
That is definitely your baby, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe we should have a closer look at that. So how about Mr. Andy can talk a little bit more about his car?
This one. I'll go to this side, which hasn't got bits hanging off it.
Right.
Yep, this was the 89 Masami replica that I produced last year and just got it ready in time for the bash last year. So that was almost its debut. And yeah, we've managed to sell quite a few of them in the meantime. And yeah, if there's a heat or a partial heat of them this bash, it'll be very exciting to watch. And we're gonna have like a Losi associated battle once more, as it was in '89.
Yeah, it is pretty special, isn't it? But you also have another new project.
Yes, there's was it the younger brother of this one, which is the 91. I got this one over here.
Oh,
I do apologize for the lack of Masami paint scheme. That will be coming soon.
Matches your t-shirt, mate.
Yeah, blending in. It's almost like you can't see it. It's got the wheels at
What's
each
the
end.
go with the minion hanging out the roof?
Oh, I'm glad you noticed that, there, Brett. Yep, so we've got the little minion. So on quite a few of the club days at Knox, I've been doing quite a lot of filming, using GoPro drone as well as a little onboard camera. So that's a little drone camera that's sitting in there. And I've been producing a few videos for a bit of fun and enjoyment for people. So you might have seen them on my site or on the YouTube.
that's very cool.
That's the new one. So we'll be giving that a run this time as well, of course.
So that's a Detroit car. So it's got, does it have more suspension travel, does it? What was the difference?
The front end's quite different. So a good way to look at it. I think a bit more like modern cars, the hinge pins in the center.
Mm-hmm.
On the upright.
Yep.
Sort of start looking at the screen with a video.
So that was quite a unique look, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, very
Which
cool.
car do you like better?
What was that, Mr. Brett?
Which car do you like better?
Well, the 89's probably always been the passion one. We're talking with Aaron last year a lot about it when we were sort of planning it and developing it at the start. And it's definitely the one that sort of has the memories attached to it, like we were saying with, back in time looking at the magazines. I didn't get to go to the 89 Worlds myself, unfortunately, but I think Lou was there. And as we're saying, we've got memories that sort of attached to it. The 91 car probably handles like a fraction better, but it's vintage. We're not trying to win nationals, so who cares? But it's probably my favorite, I would say. I think Aaron, you got maybe some similar memories or sentiments of those times.
absolutely. It's going back in time. Like I became an associated boy at Knox in 80. I think it was 87. Was when I started racing associated. So I did that, and I didn't get to go to 89 Worlds either. But everyone came back with photos, everyone came back with talking about it, and then you just sat there and just drooled over the magazines that came out back in the day, and all the stuff that everyone was talking about. So yeah, I've got those sentiments. Like, to me, the 89 car is one of the iconic cars you can see. But I've been cheeky, and I found my old first wheel race car, and I've been rebuilding my Bulldog for that reason too, just to take it out there so that there'll be a Bulldog. There'll be some more Bulldogs running around the track and things like that in the 540 class and the Jurassic class, so that we can take them around and enjoy them and remind ourselves of how well they handled back in the day with their super duper tires and everything else. So yeah, I just the 89 car was awesome. To me, that was the iconic car. For me, that's why Cookie and I basically started it, was because It was the car that we laughed about, or I shouldn't say we started it. I mentioned it to Cookie, and then he just took it onto a whole world of just amazingness. But it was the car to me that was one of the vintage ones that we just sort of went, wow, it'd be so good to see.
So, Lou, what sort of stories you've got? I've got this picture that you've sent to me here. What's this about?
Right, so that's that sort of puts stuff into context, right? We get a lot of people. I don't know if you can make that a little bit bigger, perhaps.
Oh.
We get a lot of people ask us questions about like big bore shocks and is their car legal? Can they run a 2003 version of the car that's been it doesn't really matter. Like, we don't care. We don't care. But what we're trying to, I guess the main thing that we're trying to replicate is like what you're seeing on the screen right now. That was from a Japanese nationals, and I think if I had to take a stab, I reckon it's probably about 86 or 87. Could even be 88. It's got Masami on pole with some weird-looking RC10 version, and next to that, it looks like a Tomahawk, or it could be a Kaisha Scorpion.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of stuff that you would have seen if you were at, let's say, an Orca Victoria round in the late 80s. That's what we're trying to recreate. But we don't care if a car, lands a little bit better and it's half a second a lap faster. It's not relevant. What's relevant is being there, witnessing these things getting driven around the track by a lot of the guys that can still drive quite well. So that's the attraction of it. Power-wise, it doesn't matter. We can overpower the cars. I mean, I've watched a couple of videos from the guys in England, the iconic RC guys. I think they're running 10.5 in their cars, and those things are ballistically quick. And look, you can have just as much fun with a Silver Can 540 as what you do with a hot 17.5, because the cars. I think the buzz is just driving the cars and seeing on the track. Who goes fastest? Who cares? Like Aaron said, you got that sense of competition between us, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Cookie and I have had some monumental world championships at clubbies, but we don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if he beats me, all good. If I beat him, well, it doesn't matter.
Well, Brett's been playing around with 540 lately, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
A little bit. We're going to
He's
talk
gone
about
back to his roots.
I've built up a reasonably priced racer.
Reasonably priced racer, an RPR.
That's right. The pug was going to come in with some news, I think.
Oh, the pug was?
Have a look at that. It's not vintage though. So maybe we'll leave it to later beach. But you can, in fact, when I whip the lid off this sucker, it does in fact have a 540 in it.
So I guess that harks back to what Lou was saying about 540s. Doesn't matter what motor's in it, but this is trying to get a taste of, I guess, the classic racing to a beginner again.
Yeah.
And this is just to prove. I mean, and I don't even know that this is going to work. I haven't driven a 540 powered car off-road since a long time ago. But I did this just to prove that maybe a $60 powertrain, i.e. the motor and speed controller, will get the car around okay. I'm not saying it's going to compete with a 21.5. It's not going to outdrag a 17.5. It's not going to pull a wheel stand like a 13.5. But if it gets people to the track and gets you having fun with an RC car, I think that's what it's all about.
Sure.
And the other reason I built this is because this is the latest offering from Yokomo. This is the RO 1.0, as you said.
Yep.
There's the box. Have a look at that. We even sort of faithfully recreated the box art page.
Yeah, well, it need to be, as simple as possible straight out of the box, right? To make it as simple as possible for people to go straight to the track.
And some of the winners for me for this kit that wasn't even when I started racing, like I said, and I haven't been racing that long compared to Aaron and Lewis and Cookie. But in 1993, you couldn't get a product like this that you could take to the track. You either had Tamiya's, which were not race cars of the time.
What did you take?
Honest, out of the box. Or you had full competition cars, much like the cars we have now. And that's something that's very dear to my heart, a double X Lossy. And that's no different than the competition cars we have now in that it's a high-end car. But we used to fit those cars, and I did myself actually run 540. That used to be a thing. That was a class. So whether you're running modified 17.5 or 21.5, the motor and ESCs, unfortunately, they sort of cost you hundreds of dollars in itself. And we're sort of thankful for that in many ways, because brushless motors and LiPo batteries, don't get me wrong, they are the greatest thing that has ever happened to RC cars. But as far as a price point and getting in, you know what I mean? The LiPo battery, that's in there. But the brushed motor, which is like $19, and the speed controller, which is the 9 steps, 60 amp unit there, which is like $45. Like, that is a really reasonable way to go to the track and have fun.
Absolutely.
So I'm really pleased. This car had pre-assembled drive shafts, didn't it, Beach? Pre-assembled
easy to put together.
Pre-assembled differential. Yes, we had to put oil. It's got a gear differential. Yes, we had to put oil in it, but it came in the kit. It had pre-assembled shocks. Again, we had to bleed it. And that was a little bit of a learning curve, because they don't actually have bleeder screws like the SO 2.0. But nonetheless, this is a competition car. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. And it's actually getting a debut at Knox on Sunday.
Good stuff. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more vintage cars that are going to be at the track this Sunday.
Yes. And like I said, it's definitely not vintage. It's nothing to take away from vintage, but it's just a 540 powertrain, and it's something that you can get without having to get like a vintage per se that you're snapping in half and you really struggle to get parts for. This is not something that you have to be emotive about.
Yeah.
In that it's just a race buggy, And who knows, in 30 years' time, somebody might have tears for this car. Much like the double X on the floor, which unfortunately is not my personal car. But it's something that I suppose you always remember your first proper race car, so
sure.
It's very dear to our hearts as racers. And I think that goes for the vintage bash and what makes it so great.
So this Sunday,
exactly capturing that moment. And all we've done here, Hearns, all we've done here with Yokomo is try and create something to get more people into our beloved hobby, and as you guys know, I mean, I work on the front line. I work on the shop floor. Yeah. So I get to speak to people. When people come in and they say, "Oh, little Johnny was down at the track the other day, and he really enjoyed the cars. I've got X amount of money. Let's I want to take him racing." When you start adding things up and it gets to $1,600, $2,000, it's quite cost prohibitive to a lot of people. And even then, if they don't have thick skin, those people will turn up and they will get lapped 5 times by somebody in stock class per se. So, this is just about capturing a new market, new people, and having some fun with RC, and exactly what the Vintage Bash is recreating. Like I said, it's much different to the car that I'm showing here. This is a double XCR. So this is what, a 96, 95 car, Aaron?
That's good. 96.
So I never even had one this late. I'd moved over to on-road by then, but I did definitely have these graphite options on my original or version 1 double X, which I think was a 93 release car, Lewis. Yeah, that was from the World's 91 prototype. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then they came back and then they started circulation late 92, 93.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is Aaron Defina's very personal car. You can see here by the big name on the window. But yeah, so this is really cool, and there's no reason that this car, in fact, won't go faster around the track than that car that we just showed you there. You know what I mean? But this is really cool. This is set up with a 21.5, I believe. It's got a Hydra drive. You know, it's got an original Lexan spur gear cover. All these things, you know, it's got original wing wire with button mounts. You know, what a pain that was. You know, we've just come to love solid mounts. When you're marshalling, I don't know if I marshaled just like probably last vintage bash. It was the first time I'd marshaled vintage cars in a while. And of course, the first one you pick up, you rip the wing clean out of the shock tower, you know, because you're just so used to them being engineered a little bit different way. It's got the antenna tube. I'm sure that's redundant, but it's there and looks cool.
No, it's not. The antenna runs up it, Brett.
The antenna runs up it.
It's actually a long antenna receiver.
Yeah. I just wish, the only thing that I wish for in this car that's really going to make my heart sing is for orange front springs, because that's what my Double X used to have on it. And it used to have these really cool, like, reverse dished wheels with polycarbonate covers. And that was such a cool idea because it took away the ribbing from the back of the wheel where you get mud and stones and sticks and that sort of crap stuck in the wheel, and it put the reinforcement here, but it had a clear polycarbonate cover that you could paint or put a sticker or whatever, you know. And these cars are very 90s. Like I said, they're all about the fluoro colors, the bright painted springs. And for me, much like these guys have said, you know, like everybody's got their vintage and their thing. I mean, this is me all over. You know, if it had, like I said, orange front springs, dished wheels, and Velcro battery straps that my Double X had. This is the later model one with the paddle pop stick. You know, and that comes from our saddle packs. We used to have to put a paddle pop stick under the Velcro. I don't know if you remember, Lewis. You know, and you'd often burn through. Well, I would anyway. Being 14 at the time, I'd often burn through my Velcro straps because we used to solder in our batteries every time. And when we were running modified, it didn't matter because we used to unsolder the motor anyway. So we had the scope on the bench. I've actually still got the very same scope in my toolbox that I use when I go racing. And you'd unsolder the battery, unsolder the motor, and you'd start servicing and getting the car ready for the next heat. So, you know, those days are gone. But yeah, the Double X is where it's at for me. And that's why I've taken such great pride in, I suppose, recreating something similar of a modern era. And this is what Yokomo can bring to the table in their sort of an entry-level racer. So I'm really excited to see how it goes. I hope we don't go out there and do donuts, but I'm sure we won't. It's got all the same geometry, running gears as the modern car. It's just made with more basic or fundamental components. It doesn't have carbon fiber shock towers. It's got molded plastic. You know, it's got 12 mil shocks that are plastic as well. What else has it got? It's got a plastic chassis instead of alloy. But you know what? I mean, it never posed this car a problem.
No, that's right. The old cars were all plastic as well, right?
They were all plastic, and that's actually what Lossy was famous for, because they were really the pioneer of quality injection molding plastics. Associated with the alloy tub cars. And I suppose the fundamental era of carbon fibers and composites, whereas the Lossies was, injection molded plastics, and that's really what they were famous for. So this Yokomo sort of brings that to the table, and that excites me. So I suppose I'm really emotional about this car, and I really hope that it does okay.
Sure. Now, I've got a question here, which you guys could answer if you could. So Jason Palmer's asking, where's the vintage bash being held for us non-racers that may be interested in looking for the first time? Now, what I might do is I'll get the website and I'll post that in the comments here. So that was vintage bash.
Harrington Park Leisure Centre. O'Connor Road, Knoxfield. Yeah. Knoxfield, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put the URL in the comments here for everyone.
You know, it's really funny that I just never know the address of the track, but I can tell you no matter where I am in the world, I can tell you how to get there.
Right.
Oh, you got,
Cross the stud road traffic lights, go up a couple. That's it.
That's right.
Straight behind Bunnies.
That's right now. Yeah.
so I've just posted up the URL there, and anyone else with more questions, please feel free to just add them to the comments, and I'll bring it forward to all the boys and get them to answer those for you.
And the
Okay.
Vintage Bash is an awesome one-off event that happens annually at this point. Who knows? It might happen every couple of months. But I know Knox in particular has really embraced the vintage culture. And on any given Sunday, any given fortnight Sunday, there's usually 10, 15, 20 vintage cars, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, 540s, 21.5s, you know, because they are so popular for so many people.
It's a growing class at Knox. Generally we get 2 heats, and just a little bit more info on Knox. Knox celebrates its 40th birthday next year.
Wow.
So that's how long that track's been at that same spot for. So
Yeah, it's
really
one of the rituals, isn't
not
it?
quite as long as Hearns, but in that, yeah, we go in that same direction.
But, you know, and that's one of the interesting flip-flops is, you know, that those tracks were supported by the shops, and like Hearns was associated back in the day. I can remember the Hearns drivers, Craig Bowering and those guys proudly wearing their Hearns shirts and carrying their associated and then their shoemaker. Jason Forte.
Yep.
And it's great that you guys have then come back and supported, you know, the revival and the vision of a couple of us old fogies who decided that running vintage cars would be cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got on board and you've got the re-reads and you've got all of the products and that sort of stuff. And we can't thank you enough personally, just from the fact that you've helped our vision, you know, come to fruition, really. And it's basically you're giving me an excuse to get at home and hang out with all my family, my RC family, of which all of you are a part of it, because I've known you for however long we've known each other, from all the dodgy tracks and the stories that shall never be told.
Well, I knew Brett since before he had a moustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
couldn't grow one.
Well, I remember sitting, because Cookie couldn't drive to Knox at the start, so I remember sitting talking to Cookie's mum about what classes he should take in year 12 to then go through and become such a successful little businessman. And I never once mentioned 3D design. Maths and accounting, yes, but no 3D design, Cookie. I don't know where you got that from.
I must have misheard what you said. Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. But, you know. And BJ at the Velodrome.
Oh, the velodromes are great, aren't they? We'd like to bring another one back for next year. So
We do
whoever's
a
into
video.
that, let us know.
He's hair like you.
Yeah, I know. We've both got no hair now. We can do a video.
I reckon it's a photo out there somewhere.
No, that doesn't exist. Well, it doesn't exist for me. BJ might want to have hair, but I've never had hair. My haircut was terrible.
I'm all good
That
with
is
it now.
fantastic, guys. So when's the Vintage Bash this year? What are the dates?
It's 3rd to the 5th of November.
So it's the long weekend. The long weekend in Victoria.
So it's Cup weekend, is it?
Correct.
It's that weekend.
That's the one. So for all the Victorians, for everyone who's not in Victoria, we apologise. There's a long weekend and a public holiday for a horse race.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of interstaters coming, aren't there?
Yes.
We've got a whole heap of the guys coming down from Chargers, the Chargers Club in Queensland. Jano, Marshy and the boys up there, they've pretty much taken our rule set under their wing, and it's going gangbusters to the point where they've got a little track which is getting built. It's going to be a bigger track. Well, hopefully they get the welts, because that surface is pretty special. But they're actually doing like a little dirt track on the side. They're actually saying that a lot of people prefer to drive on the dirt track. You know, the kids especially, they'll show up with like a grasshopper or something, just bash it around and that just takes you back to what we used to do back in the day. So yeah, I think there's about. I'm going to stick my neck out and say I think there's 30 of them coming out.
Wow, that's a
From
big
the Chargers
contingent.
Club, yeah.
Impressive.
Okay, so I guess with all of the people all set up and ready to come, and all the organising well underway, is there anything you guys need? Do you need volunteers at all? Do you need anyone to help out?
I could say it's actually quite funny because everyone at the bash helped out last year, and it's because they've got that different feel. It's not the I'm there to win and all this sort of stuff. Everybody was there. There were people marshalling. If something went wrong with your car, everybody would pitch in to help your car. When there was something going on at the track, that was that.
It's like camaraderie, I think.
Yeah, it was the thing that everybody understands, that without everybody else there, the sport doesn't exist. So really, it's not about, competing and crushing your opposition like it is, in the intergalactic world titles, that go on. But it's about the fact that if these guys aren't here with their cars, then there's none of the cars running, and I don't get a chance to run my car around the track. So the amount of, and I'll say, it's a funny word and I hate using it, but the amount of love that was going on where people were just handing people things, going, the Ultima, the one that turned up and all of a sudden Bodner goes, oh, and there's this, I've forgotten his name.
Dave Watson.
And it was his car he drove at the 89 Worlds, appeared in the
there's a bit of love right there.
Yeah, there's some love there. So it's just that everybody just pitches in. So everybody, there's no real, we've got to have this person to paint this pole white or something like that. It's just turn up and people just help to make sure that the day runs to the best that it can. And it's just that type of attitude and behaviour of everybody that we just love about it.
I mean, it's been a bit of a logistical nightmare for us because for some of us, it's the first time we've tried to ever organise a race meeting like this. So because of it, it's probably given us, myself anyway, a real view of what it takes to run an event like this. And for years we've gone into state and to inter-club and we've just showed up and charged our batteries and thrown the car on the track and never given it a second thought. But the amount of work that goes in the background is just enormous. And a lot of the time I think we probably don't give enough acknowledgement to the people that run these events. And I'm not looking for brownie points, but I'm just saying as a whole, we probably take it a little bit for granted. And that's from me seeing the other side of the fence. We're doing everything that we can to make this event memorable. And I think the memories are more important in our view than anything else. So we want everyone to take away a really good experience from it.
And on that topic as well, we've got a working bee at the Knox Club. So that is, I believe, next Saturday. So not tomorrow.
Next year. We'll probably do Saturday and Sunday, depending on how much we can get done.
Yeah. So if anybody's got any hours available for free on those days, especially starting the Saturday, that would be an awesome help to come down and help out to do whatever's needed at the time.
Now, there's a huge Facebook group, right?
Yeah,
oh,
massive.
We just lost a cookie. So the Facebook group. What is the Facebook group? How do people find it?
If you just jump on Facebook and look for the Vintage Bash.
Vintage Bash?
The Vintage Bash, yep. I think, what have we got at the moment? I'll tell you.
All right, let me see if I can find a link for you.
Yeah, we're going to throw the link in the chat, BJ. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think is that the one? Is that the one with 1,300 members?
That's the one.
I suggest you get down there on Sunday this week.
Yep.
I think this Sunday down at Knox is going to be a huge club day.
I agree.
First, there's a lot of people that are going to be practicing and warming up in earnest for the VDS round 3 or round 4 at Knox.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot of vintage bash guys trying to blow the cobwebs off and circulate. And then there's going to be a bunch of lunatics just out there having fun. So it's really going to be a big thing this Sunday, I think. I'm going to be there. We're going to be part of it. And I know everybody on screen is probably... You're going to be there, Cookie?
Yes, I'll be there for sure.
Yep. And, so if you can, come down this Sunday, say hi, and check out a little teaser of the action.
Yep, should be a good one. We've got the Coleman Cup as well coming up in 2 weeks' time at the Knox Club. And there is also a vintage class I saw that's running as part of that event. So I've popped my name in for that one. So that'll be another good fun vintage race as well as part of that.
Until they sanction comical, I'm not interested.
Comical.
You can't sanction comical.
You can be
can't harness
certified,
that
but not
much fun.
sanctioned.
Unsanctionable.
Yeah.
Unhinged.
So
That's
talking about
it.
the Coleman Cup, so that's part of the VDS. So what is the VDS? VDS is Victorian
Driver
Drivers
series.
Series.
Yeah.
Mm.
So is that similar to the very old Orca series?
Well,
So
that's
it's
a modern version of it, I guess. Yeah.
It is.
So it's where there's a round at each different track around Victoria.
Yeah.
But the Orca series used to have it that the club would win. So there was a really big thing about clubs and
You have
teams
to pre-qualify
yeah.
to get to race.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it was actually a big honour, and it was actually really
Make
hard.
the team,
It was really hard to qualify for the teams for each of the clubs. So if you actually got into the Orca team for the club, it was huge. And it was fantastic, and it was some of the best memories from RC are the Orca rounds that we all went off and did that. But then at each Orca round, the individual was also able to win. So if you won an Orca round, that was like nearly winning a Nat.
That was not as good as getting picked to represent your states at the New South Wales versus Victoria Interstate Challenge. Brett.
Yeah,
I
very
had
good.
the honour a couple of times, and I absolutely revelled in it. I loved it. No, it was so proud. And you used to get an event T-shirt, much like the vintage bash one that BJ and myself have got on now. These are last year's event T-shirts, race day, and it was like I said, and especially for like I said, for me, what I was like 14, 15, 16, it was really like a real I don't know, like a fundamental building block in who I am and what I become. So, and I'm really glad now that I'd do this, for a living now. There's the hobby, and that's why I try and bring this love and emotion to what we do to be successful.
Very cool. Now,
We
just remind everyone.
We looked at the train one year. No, that was terrible.
Yes.
The Nuggets.
Yes, it was. That was the Bormac Race of Champions. We decided to go up by train.
Yeah, the XPT.
Yes.
And we hired a Tarago, and then we got touted as Nuggets now in King's Cross by some scantily clad lady.
I can recall a certain train stop where a bloke walked on wearing a nightgown and a ironing board.
and
then he got escorted off the next one. Yeah. You had to be there.
Yeah. But anyway, but these are some of the memories that RC can create. And like I said, we all look back now as vintage, but I think it's really important that as a community, we set about these building blocks to keep it going, And that's what I said, like with the RO 1.0, you know what I mean? It's not going to be for everybody, and it's not going to answer a lot of questions, but it's just something else. It's just another way in,
But that's the equivalent of like the grasshopper and those sort of things were back in the day.
Yep.
It was, they weren't for everybody. They weren't this, they weren't that, but it gave you the taste of RC cars, and then you'd move across to something else. And, like if you went back and asked the majority of people now what their first car was, I can guarantee you most of the people's first car it wouldn't have been a double X, or it wouldn't have been an RC10, or it wouldn't have been this. It would have been starting off with, there's Cookie's first car.
Unless you were BJ and you had a Nichimo.
Oh, and did he have the really?
Had a Nichimo. Spirit FF.
We had one of those too. They were all right down in Frankston.
Were they?
Yeah, we raced it at Frankston.
No.
That's where I first met Lou down at Carrigal Hub in Frankston, and we were laughing about it, the photos, because you look at the driver's stand and it was maybe 2 inches high, a bit of wood with gravel on it.
Yeah,
and it was Optimas, Mugen Bulldogs, Tomahawks, Nichimos, there was the Coyote there. There were Hot Shots. There were Frogs. There were Pajeros. There were Grasshoppers and Hornets. The Hornets was the one you wanted because it had that independent rear end.
Oh, yeah. And then if you showed up with an Optima Mid,
with that,
you had one of these bad boys in the back.
Oh,
you were on.
Is that a brush motor in there?
That's a 360 PT. So when you have that in,
let's go.
Look
Show us
out,
what's in
boys.
there.
We mean
Give
business.
us a live unboxing.
This was
that's not the PT. That's the gold.
That's the gold. So no, this is the one. I've got my PT at home, but this is actually a gold. So it's untouched. There's no damage to the threads. So this was it because it's a 550. It's longer than a 540, and this was just with the guys who turned up with these when they had a 360 in their car. They went, yep. They were bringing the noise.
BJ?
That's a quad, yeah? Is that like a 24-turn quad?
I think that's a good question because I only had the 360 PT. I never ran one of these. I don't know what winding this is, but it'll be something like that. But these were the bee's knees.
You just
back in the day.
Put that in with a 32 pitch pinion and look out.
And charge your batteries to
make sure you change type.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's unboxing that's been like 30 years in the making.
That's right.
It was made 30 years ago.
Yeah. So, Cookie, what was that four-wheel drive to me you had before that was like appearing on the screen?
Yeah, with the couple of points there actually. One is the 540 that Brett was talking about. So 540 class is starting to get a bit of popularity as well, especially at Knox at the moment.
Yeah.
There's been a whole class for it on quite a few of the clubbies, and another thing that was alluded to is the generosity and sharing that seems to have really come out. That was maybe unexpected, especially from last year and going into this year as well. And as I think Lou, you mentioned, like Bodner, for example, one of the most generous around. He found somebody's old car, returned it to their owner. So all that sort of sharing and lending of cars is a big thing. So this one is a Solarmobile that Lou has kindly lent me to use for the bash. And
what is it? A manta ray?
Any meetings? That is a blazing. Does it have a sticker? That is a
blazing star.
Blazing star. Oh, no, it's not a sticker. A blazing star. Yep. To me, a blazing star.
It's like a blazing turd.
Just showing the. Just take that body off and show that power plant. Yep. Show that power plant, Cook.
Yep. It's got the.
Is that a Thundershot base?
No, mate.
No. It's a
manta ray.
The manta ray base.
Look at that.
Yeah. Manta ray base.
Yep.
27 turns of fury.
Glorious silver can.
To get back to what you were saying, Brett, a vintage four-wheel drive with a silver can laps about the same speed as a modern 21.5 two-wheel drive.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
There you go.
And that's without letting out the wonderful odor Mabuchi.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no smoke coming out of it.
No. So they're actually quite quick still.
Yeah.
Yep. So I gave this a run last clubby out at Knox when Lou brought it along. So it was definitely a good thing. Like you don't even realize it, when you grab a car like this and you chuck it on the track and start driving, and then somebody goes, "Oh man, you've got like the biggest smile on your face," and then you realize.
Yeah, we actually had to send him to the first aid tent to get the smile off his face after the heat.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Well, the great thing about all this vintage as well is there's the whole culture, not only of the actual real vintage ones, and then also Cookie making replicas, but there's the brand new BBX, which Tamiya have released as well, which has got all the flavor of vintage.
That boy.
Yeah, but it has all the modern engineering, and there's one half built there.
Oh, here it is.
Partially, I think it's. Sorry, go on.
In Tony Gray's eyes, that's finished, right?
Yeah.
Tony Gray's one's actually a little bit further along. This one here belongs to Jeff Biggity Biggs, boss man Jeff. So this has been his one that I promised to build, and I've actually really enjoyed it. And like you said, it is a brand new car, all new design, but it's got a real retro aesthetic about it. I can't say engineering because it's like beautiful engineered. The steering bell crank on this car is absolutely bespoke. It is like similar to that of, if not the same, if not better than the Yokomo competition cars. It is a proper ball raced steering bell crank system in there. Really nice with a a travel limiter and everything. So they've really done a really good job. It's got a really nice, you can even see the thrust washer there on the diff. You can see anybody who knows Tamiya knows that that's TRF blue.
Yep.
And if you're into anodizing, there is no sweeter, sexier color than TRF blue anodizing. So it's a one-piece alloy nut to hold the ball diff together. So all those little bits and pieces, fully ball raced, like I said, that makes the BBX something else.
Hex-headed screws too?
Sorry?
Hex-headed screws?
Hex-headed screws, absolutely. All countersunk, really nice quality, really nice. Like even the turnbuckles, I know that this isn't the best camera for it. It has to be done in the studio. You can check out episode 1 and probably 2 on our YouTube channel for where myself and Tony Gray have built one. But BBX, and it does exactly capture that vintage essence, but it's still like all new, but it's still a cage car. This doesn't make sense in so many ways.
But it looks so cool.
It just looks right, Brett. That's the trick.
It really
just
does.
looks right.
Like to a lot of people, it really does. Like I said, it's slightly before my vintage. Racing in, I never really raced a cage car, so I'm not really emotional about it, but I get it, and not only that, it's quality plastics. It's not just ABS, it's not like that pile of crap you held up, Andy. I don't know what you call it. The what?
Oh,
the blazing what?
Wouldn't say that. Yeah.
Careful.
Experience the
But
wrath
it is
on that one.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not just
Nice.
ABS plastic, it's proper fiber reinforced, FRP plastic. So Tamiya have actually done it. And I've built a few Tamiya kits. I won't say that I'm the be all and end all, but this is definitely the nicest Tamiya kit that I've ever built, outside of anything with a TRF badge on. It's actually really nice.
Evo. That's basically, yeah.
Not Force Evo. I've built one of them. This build's nicer than that, Lewis.
Yeah.
This
I have to say, when I was having a close look at that with Andy, we did the unboxing. It was really impressive the amount of thought that went into the design of that car. And that's probably because the year before, Tamiya had released the modern, what do you call them? The Super?
The Super Avanti.
Yeah. And they had the retro names and the retro colors, but they were totally brand new cars. The push rod inboard front shocks, and they obviously didn't appeal. And so hence I think Tamiya have learnt from their market research very quickly, and they've produced this BBX, which has just smacked it out of the park. I think they've listened to a lot of feedback, and they've made a tremendous car. And I really can't work out what the future is for that car, because it's such a good car. I can't imagine it not being on the racetrack. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone just enters it into a regular class and see what happens with it.
Yeah, we definitely could get them going at the Knox club days, or any club days, because it doesn't fit the vintage rules if we're being strict. On the club day though, who cares? You just run it in the class. It's obviously not going to perform like a modern car, so it would be interesting. Like just in casual vintage racing, it's just there for fun. So I'm sure on any club day, if we can get a few down, I'm definitely going to take mine down once I finally find a few seconds to build it. Yeah, so definitely want to give it a run and see what happens, and maybe some others will as well.
No, very cool. So this Sunday is going to be the warm up for the Coleman Cup, is it?
The warm up for the Coleman Cup, it's a clubby that can be raced in the same format as the Coleman Cup.
Yep.
I think the associated guys were there today practicing, so they're taking it fairly seriously.
Mm-hmm. So I guess anyone who wants to turn up on Sunday to see what it's all about, there'll be vintage cars going around for sure, wouldn't there?
Yep, definitely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's probably a good segue there is if people are interested in coming down and having a look on any day, including the bash in particular, we'd definitely encourage people to bring their old cars or cars they used to have or cars they've currently got that they use now, even if they don't race. Bring it down. Put it on show if you want to. There'll be lots of static cars there to see and drool over, of course, as well as not just the ones that are running on the track.
I guess if you've got a comical, bring that along and let's see how many can go on the track.
If you've got a comical, if you've got a vintage car, if you've got something that's not the norm, if you've got a DBS, bring it down.
Is there going to be a
We'll
comical
find your
Sunday?
class. Yeah.
I'm not going to put this on the track.
No?
Why
I
not?
might bring it down.
Why won't you run her on the track? That's what it's designed for.
Jurassics.
Yeah, Jurassic. There we go.
Yeah, those comicals. How much fun did we have driving those around, Brett?
How good is it?
I reckon Brett could drive backwards better than forwards.
Yeah.
I've hit it with a bit of simple green, but apart from that, mate, it's untouched. I've peaked the batteries. It's ready for Sunday.
It was one of the hits of the Bash 1.0 for sure, the comical class.
It was.
Yeah,
It was.
it will be again.
The very essence of RC.
Now, I've
Even
got a
on
quick question from Nids. We were talking about the BBX before, and he's wondering if Tamiya is going to be releasing more hex-headed kits. Now, I guess Tamiya have released them before in like the TRF range, right? The sort of more pro-type cars, which they haven't done in a little while, but they do one-offs in Japan. I don't know if they'll do more. It's hard to say. I mean, this BBX has been a sort of a hybrid type of concept, hasn't it? And they've been putting all these really
Well, I think
pro
I actually
elements.
think that the Super Avanti and the Astute 2022 were both.
They were hex as well, were they?
So I think anything modern that's not like a re-release for a frog or a grasshopper, I think will definitely be hex. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Let's wait and see. Yeah, cool.
Unless it's an MB01.
MBO1.
What will we do with our spare Phillips head screwdrivers then?
Oh, he's gone again.
Ask Tony Gray. He knows what to do with jizz.
He loves jizz.
Can't get
Now,
enough.
if you don't know, what does jizz mean?
Japanese industrial standards.
That is correct.
I'm back.
Yes, you just missed the
There you
jizz.
go. Jesus.
I went
He's
away.
corners.
All right, so I'm still waiting for. Everyone's been really shy. There's hardly any questions
more
coming
questions.
up. Although we've got a
Yeah.
lot of people watching, but everyone's too shy to ask anything. So
While they
So what
think
else are
up
we
lots
running
of-
on Sunday?
I was going to say while they think up lots of good questions, for the bash, because it's not a world championships, we're not going to have trophies, all the little plastic trophies from 1 down to whatever. But we will have some, I don't know what to call it, trophy prizes, I guess you could say, or like kind of like trophies, but yeah, we're not going to give it. If you win, you probably won't get one, unless you also have the coolest, funkiest car or something special about your car. So it'll be similar to last year's approach, where it's all about have you got a super original car with all original parts, or is it a special build in some way? So so we'll have some prizes for those. You might have seen.
I hope there's one for biggest moustache.
Okay, I'll write that down just a second. Okay, cool.
I have to start growing and get a Fu Manchu happening.
Yeah, that's it. I just need to take
it is the
I'll
start
take a
of
screenshot.
November, Bretty. So if you're doing November, you better show up with a fresh face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, unless you can grow a full moustache in 4 days, but you probably can.
over the weekend. Yeah. So you might have seen it on the socials. I'll be producing some little like trophy prizes.
Wow.
So this is the first one, and you might be able to guess that it's for the Jurassic class. So we'll have. They won't all be the same. So there'll be one or two per class at least, and it'll have something that'll relate to the class. So obviously the good old Rexy here is the Jurassic's class. So one of you lucky, I think we've only got about 10 or so in the Jurassic's class, 10 or 11. So one of you lucky people will win this one. And then we'll also have other ones for the Hearns Stadium Trucks class. And then we've got a Racing Lines competition. There'll be 2 and 4-wheel drive. And then we've got our 540 classes as well. So the 540 motor. And
The Racing Lines one should be called the Smithy Award.
the Smithy for racing lines. And then we've got
I like that. Yeah, good work. That's you pay for that one.
So
we'll note that down.
for the dirt and track class, would it be the TFG award?
Yeah.
The TFG.
Hold on. Who did we give Baz in a can to?
Well, I'm a racing one. Yeah, the Smithy and the TFG.
TFG.
I like that.
Oh, good workshopping.
Right, we do have a question
Let's
here.
note that. Yeah. Oh, questions.
Favorite vintage cards in your collection? Andy, Aaron, and Lou. So I guess let's keep it simple to your most favorite vintage car in your collection.
Oh, is that like choosing children if you have them?
Yeah, why not?
Most favorite. Well, I guess if I start, my most favorite, it's probably not a off-road buggy actually. It's a Rothman's Porsche, 956 Rothman's Porsche. Yep. So the original Tamiya Racing Master series.
Wow, very classical. That could be a Jurassic.
Yeah, it's on-road Jurassic. It's around the time of the Frog. I think it was just a year or so after the Frog, I believe.
Mm.
How about you, Lou?
For me, I'm lost. I've got quite a few cars. I'm going to stick my neck out, and this one will probably go against the grain. I've managed to get hold of every Losi that I ever raced, as in every model Losi that I ever raced, from 1990 through to the year 2000. I've got all the buggies, all the trucks. So my heart's really Losi, but there was one car that I always wanted to drive and try, and that was a Traxxas TRX1. And Neil gave me a TRX1, and I've pulled that thing to pieces, put it all back together, and gave it my little twist on it. So I'm going to probably say that TRX1 is probably my favourite car.
Really?
So that's me.
How about Aaron?
Yeah.
I had you pegged at the top force for sure.
Oh, the top four, look, I could probably put 6 different cars. The top fours, I mean, that's the fact that I managed to be able to recreate a car that I thought was lost, and someone over here found a box full of parts that had some of the parts from my own car from back in the day. That's a mind blower. The Kaisho Turbo Rocky that I actually swapped it for a Mini and sat on my shelf for ages. And I like one day I'll do something with it, and then I just clicked on like, I want to do this, and I sort of did it in a Japanese style. And the car is, again, it's unbelievable. It's probably one of my favorites as well. But like that, there's probably half a dozen cars. Another car that's really favourite of mine, BJ, I sent you a picture before. Myself and Andy did the Kaisho World Cup in 1999. I kept the body shell, but my actual chassis got stolen. And over a conversation, Andy still had his car, which was literally a carbon copy of the car that I had, and he just sent it to me. So that got completely restored, and now it's reunited. I've got the chassis and the car again. So there's myself and Andy in Hawaii.
Wow.
Simon Badisi and Justin Vergust as well, the 14. It's hard to believe that was 24 years ago. So I've got that car again. So that's another one of my favourites. I've actually got the right car stand like we used in the event, and I still found one of the little stickers that we had, Australia A. So that was our team. So we had Australia A and Australia B, and we got through to the semi-final we were in. I think we qualified 9th or something, and then we just got hammered. But yeah, good memories. Just memories from something that happened such a long time ago. It feels like yesterday. Andy and I were just talking about it earlier in the week. I can still remember the foods that came out, and the charging station, and the DJ playing music, and
singing.
I was putting bets on who was going to be the first bloke to hit the transponder bridge. Yep. Yeah, just like yesterday.
Who got it?
That wasn't me.
Oh, okay.
No, I tried. I tried.
How about Aaron? Can you pick a favourite? Because you got like 10 million cars. Maybe 20 million.
I've still got most of my cars. So that's probably where you're sort of sitting there and going, pick a child who's your favourite, and I've got 100 children sitting in the room, and they're all looking at you, going, "Well, like it's going to sound really crazy, but one of the ones that I haven't talked about, but I've got is my first RC car was a Cox 049 Volkswagen that my dad converted. So it had the first cars had ratchets and they just drive around in a little circle. Dad cut the ratchets off, welded a Jubro little cliplet, a service clip onto it, and then he put the radio from his boat that he made. So he made his own radios back in the day. So we had a wheeled radio that you'd drive this little 049.
Was that in 1978?
Yeah, it was basically in that. So it was in the 70s, so that we had that. So I've still got that car at home and I've still got that radio. So that's sort of like, if you want to talk emotional sort of stuff, that one just is priceless. You can never, because that was me at some stupid little age with Dad. My Mugen Bulldog is pretty cool because I used to race. That was, I saved up all my pocket money and went and bought that from a hobby store, would you believe, in Hampton Street, Brett. There was a train store there, and he had Mugen Bulldogs in the window, and I saved up all my pocket money doing the paper rounds. And then I've got basically my collection of RC10s, and back in the day I used to read the magazines and copy them. So I've got an RC10 that I'm just rebuilding. Well, it's not really an RC10 anymore, but I'm rebuilding it for the 540 class, but it's a copy of Mike Christensen's MIP car was in the first associated in 87 Worlds. So it was a trailing arms MIP gearbox carbon fibre RC10, and I've got that. So that's I can't pick a favourite car. It's a SG Coyotes, Optima mids, Optima long wheelbase mids. They're all there, and whatever's my favourite's the car that I'm going to pick out in the day. The one you'll probably laugh is the one I've been having the most fun with lately, the Hearns Hobby VQS. I put a 540 in it. We put a 540 back in it, and I won because I'd heard about them, never had one in a day, thought they were cool but overcomplicated. Drove it at Knox and went, actually, this thing's flaming cool. It's unbelievably cool to drive around the track, and it's the Hearns Hobby limited edition VQS that you guys put together and everything else. It's mad. It's fantastic. I'm sitting there going, this is crazy. We even had Rory Cull driving it with a wheeled radio, and he was grinning like an idiot. Yeah. So
I don't know if that was a grin or a grimace.
I think it was a grin to start off, and it became a grimace very quickly as he realised that it wasn't driven with this, he was driving with a wheel. So,
Well, purely that VQS is going to be
what we were saying earlier with regards to the older cars.
Yeah, it got rebuilt, Brett. Yeah. That's why.
No. I'm just saying it was impeccable. You wrecked it then. That would have been.
Oh, okay. It actually goes really well because I had to rebuild it.
It even had a painted servo.
Yeah, that always makes it go fast.
That's right.
It's all about the looks as well. There's limited edition.
What is it? I make this look good. Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Here's a vintage bash question. Will there be a concourse trophy?
Yes. But concourse is not like concourse that you all think about, which is now I go and pay the world's greatest painter to paint a car.
Yeah.
That's not what the concourse at the bash is going to be.
Yeah. Don't think that your James Ainsley paint job's going to win the concourse.
And they are cool, don't get me wrong, but that's not what we're looking for because that's not what's the spirit of the bash.
Yeah, and Rob's already won one, so you can't win twice in a row.
Right. Right. Fair enough. So this is going to be owner built and painted type of concourse. Is what we're talking about?
Yeah, not necessarily. Remember what it is that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to achieve time travel here to an extent. So bring out something that looks like it's just come off a track in 1995.
If you're wearing sort of 3/4 length checkered shorts, you're probably standing a really good chance. Yeah. You might win yourself.
I don't know if I'll fit into any of those anymore.
You might win the concourse personally rather than the car.
Yeah. So that's the sort of thing we look for. I mean, Rob that asked the question last year, he put out this Volkswagen Beetle.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I walked past it twice. The first time I didn't glance at it, and then the second time I went around, I'm like, this thing's off its nut. And I'm sure if you saw it, you understand why he actually won that part of the concourse. Yeah,
the biggest homage, the honour I can pay to that was Tony Gray came up to me, kicked me in the shins, and said, "You need to go and look at this car."
Yeah,
and if Tony Gray's telling you to go and look at a car, you know it's going to be special. So I walked over there and had a look and was dumbfounded. Unbelievable. And I can't compliment Rob enough on that, how good that car was.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing we look for.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But you never know, we may do more than one.
Checkers, fluoros, they're always going to help.
Well, checkers and fluoros is part of the. That's you know what it's like. It's I was about to say it before. With real cars, everyone goes back to the muscle car era.
Yep.
Right? You can't recreate that because it happened once and it doesn't happen again. Now we're going back to an era when computers weren't. Everyone didn't have a computer. Stuff wasn't necessarily designed in a computer.
People didn't have airbrush.
Didn't have CAD design, so it was a lot of the stuff was drawn. It wasn't tested. The testing was, people, they'd send 10 guys out to the track and they'd all bounce their cars around and find out what parts broke, and then maybe we need to put a rib on this. RC was still trying to find its way, so that's why you had so many unique designs, particularly with the four-wheel drives pre-89, I reckon. You've only got to look at an old Kaisho Gallop or a medium Bulldog or a Zerda
SG Coyote,
just all weird ideas that they came up to try to make these things work. So that's a cool aspect of it. Going back to the muscle car stuff, and as a typical example, they used to come out of the factory with like full orange and black stripes and stuff like that. They didn't do that anymore, but now you see like a re-released Mustang, like the current Mustangs. They're all painted up like the muscle cars. So it's a march back to those times. Why? Because those Mustangs were right. So that's what we're trying to relive, and I think we're not the only ones with that idea, and it's really cool when you get to do that again.
Very good. I think we're heading towards the end of this live stream. So is there anything else you guys would like to add? As in, what else about vintage, like the Vintage Bash #2? I guess if we recap exactly the dates it is and like what time do you expect people there, that sort of thing, or even for spectators, like what time?
So it's Friday the 3rd to Sunday the 5th. If I said there'd be people there probably at 7 o'clock in the morning on the Friday,
you might be late.
You may be actually getting there late if last year's anything to go by. Friday we've put aside as a practice day and a gas bag day, so we'll all get together and be just gas bagging. You'll probably see a lot of cars on display. There'll be cars on display in the pits. There'll be cars on display at the track. Friday night we're planning to do some sort of a social event and maybe a swap meet. And then Saturday we'll probably do two-wheel drive and monster truck. Sunday probably do four-wheel drive. But we're about to work that out now. And we'll probably be racing, I reckon, until I'm going to stick my neck out and probably say 6:30 at night on the Saturday. Just purely because of the numbers, and we want to try to finish it up early on the Sunday. We've got some interstaters that are probably going to be flying out that night. Hopefully they don't. But yeah, we've got to sort of try to think about that. But it's a bit of everything. We're hoping to have a live video feed as well. So when the time comes, if that's going to be happening, I'll pass the feed on to the boys at Hearns yourselves, and you can see that on. But really cool. And like I've said it in that little thing that I put up there, if any of the interstate guys are watching and they're coming down to Melbourne, do yourself a favour and do go to Hearns, pop in to Hearns, because it's, like we said, it's a 76-year-old hobby shop, and they've got a lot of cool stuff in there. And it's walking distance from Flinders Street Station, which is pretty cool on its own. And not necessarily the station. You may see some special things walking around the station. Brett.
Absolutely. Everything is happening around that area. It's all an experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, we've got a question here from Ian. He's asking whether or not Hearns is going to have a live from the track. So we're planning
you can bet you
on
will,
the Friday. Yeah. So Friday live will be coming straight from.
It wouldn't be a Hearns associated event without Hearns going live.
That's it. So we'll be there, and we'll also be doing our live streams, I guess, as in Facebook Lives throughout the event.
Yeah.
And then there's also going to be the footage of an ongoing live stream as well, right? Is that going on live, RC?
Hopefully, yes.
Right. So there you go. So this time round, there's going to be a lot of footage to see. So everyone can beam in wherever they are.
I'm going to make a diligent effort this weekend, this Sunday. I'll be doing a Hearns Hobbies Racing live from the driver's stand, hopefully, for the vintage classes this Sunday's race.
Do you want me to hold the camera again, Brett?
You'll be busy with the transmitter, mate. You just stand back and watch. You stand back and drive, buddy.
I'll just stand with the camera like I did last time, just from behind you, and you can talk and commentate.
You know I get nervous when you stand behind me.
I'm old, mate. You don't have to be nervous. You can run away from me now.
All right, with that, we've got another 5 minutes or so left. I think this is the last call for questions regarding anything, I guess. Anything you'd like to ask any one of us?
Yellow or white wheels?
While we
Black, yellow, black.
while we wait for the question.
Yokomo discs. Yeah, the pink Yokomo discs. That's the one with the 2 little screw holes. Bring back the Yokomo discs.
Or pink.
Stickers. I've got some. Yeah.
What did you say, Luke?
If I could actually be bothered to dye some wheels, I would definitely do pink. You all know I love a bit of pink. But I know our Yokomo Racing Australia team, we struggle with this conflict of yellow or white.
So you've gone both.
I'm firmly in the yellow camp.
That's because you're a Losi boy in heart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And yellow's Losi wheels.
Yellow boy at heart.
Because white was always associated with...
Associated.
Associated. That's it. That's all I've got to say.
All right. Oh, hang on. What have we got here?
What's that?
One more question. Last question, okay? What is an RC that you would like in your collection that you don't have?
I can tell you right now, it's an 870. One of those new Yokomos.
A YZ870C.
That's exactly
really?
what I'm
You
thinking. Absolutely. YZ870C.
Yeah. They used to be everywhere. Go find one now. Impossible.
And I never got to race one in the day. Oh, I did.
870C was my first competition car. So I love that thing.
My cousin raced it, and we machined parts up, and I used to make parts for it, but I never got to drive it. And I've always, and hanging out with Reese Birtles and everybody, I've always wanted one, and I never had one. It's the one car that's missing from my whole
such
collection.
A simple design.
It was brilliant. It was a simple design. It was probably to me, it was like the Shoemaker Cat in the RC10. It was another one that just changed the way that RC cars were designed and performed. It just completely blew it. It just took it to that next level. Four-wheel drive went from being really hard to run and all maintain and make time and everything to just blowing everybody away.
Was that something we can do in a future one? So it'd be great to do a comparison between a re-release Optima Mid and a YZ870C, so you can see the simplicity in the design of the Yokomo.
And I'm pretty sure that we have a few of those cars. Yeah, Optimas, and once we get our Hearns Hobbies issued Yokomo YZ870Cs, then we'll be able to do the
game change.
Here they are right there, and just look at the difference and look at the performance. Look at how they went.
Well, the thing about the 870C is that it took Yokomo all the way through until the 2000s.
Yeah, that's right. It was one of those designs that was. It was one of those designs that was awesome.
That was the front, center, and rear bulkheads that they pretty much used through all of their models, all of their lineage through that era.
And that's why I want one of those, because I want that part of the history, which is the start of that whole evolution and change of the four-wheel drive off-road. That's the car.
I'm not sure if your wife's watching this, Aaron, but you asked me for 3.
Yeah, I could add a 0 to that right now. I'm back where I'm working, Brett. You know where I'm working, mate. 3's all right.
There you go. How about
That's
Andy?
fantastic, guys. I think there's one up, Paige.
That's it. All right. Here we go. Thank you very much for joining us for this very special Hearns at Home Live. So thank you to all of our special guests, Lou, Aaron, Andy, and make sure that everyone who can goes to the Vintage Bash 2. And just follow those links, which I have put into the comments if you like more info. So there's links to the website as well as to the Facebook group, which is absolutely huge. 1.3K members now is amazing. And that's worldwide members, right? So there's a lot of people following this vintage, and it's just absolutely huge. And there's no doubt that's why we love, celebrating with, these events. And I mean, It's not the first time that a vintage event's been put on, but last year's event was unbelievably successful. So I hope all the best success for this one as well. What do you got there?
Come down Sunday and check out the buggy that matches Andy Cook's T-shirt.
That's it. So Knox on Sunday as well. So if you're in Melbourne, come on down, have a look, see what it's all about. And then think about it, even if it's not vintage or you just want to see what racing is all about, go to any of the clubs. There's Knox, there's Keilor, and there's probably plenty of other clubs all around the world and in your neighbourhood. So see what it's all about and see how, you can get passionate about it just like we have. So there we go. So thank you very much.
More passionate than you, BJ.
I've got lots of passion, All right, from there, we'll say good evening, and we'll see you again next week. So next week we're going to go back to our regular programming at 2 p.m.
Next Friday.
That's it.
So,
Come to
Thank you, everyone.
adios.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.